The Chicago mayor now joining more than a dozen mayors, including the mayor of New York, now threatening, many of them now threatening to sue the administration to stop it from sending federal law enforcement in. Let's welcome back to the show Acting Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, Ken Cuccinelli. Great to see you, Secretary. We just closed out the presser. There's a lot of focus from the reporters that the president is focusing on Democrat cities. He wants to take control of them, distract from his mistakes. Your reaction to that presser?
Well, there's no interest on the part of the president in taking control of cities. That's their local responsibility. What he really wants them to do is take responsibility for the first priority of government, and that is public safety. And he's made it very clear that where we have federal responsibilities, we're going to be aggressive about trying to help those communities achieve peace. Why anybody would be against that is beyond me. You and I both know the reason they're against it is they don't want to be partnering with President Trump. And that's a sad reality where they're willing to sacrifice their communities to politics. The president is not.
You know, if a Democrat mayor is seen getting on the phone with the president, then the Democrat base gets angry if they're even talking to the president. It seems like common sense that everybody should work together to stop babies being shot. And the other thing, too, is taxpayers know that they're going to have to pay for the rioting and the violence slamming these cities. I mean, the pandemic already caused 4,400 businesses in Chicago to shut down. More than half are never coming back. But there is the question about, these officials moving into the cities wearing military gear, military uniforms. There's complaints about that. Your reaction to that? That makes it look like soldiers are moving in. Your reaction?
Well, take our Border Patrol officers, the BORTAC, our equivalent of a SWAT team. Their uniforms are designed for their usual environment, which is the border. But here they're cross-designated as Federal Protective Service officers who wear blue uniforms, and they're side by side working with them. We go with what we've got, and those are the uniforms they have. In Portland, they've been in front of the same people who have been rioting and committing crimes for weeks. They know exactly who these officers are. In terms of the agencies present. It's not some surprise to any of those folks. Okay. And this is not unusual gear for high-intensity law enforcement operations.
Yeah, the head of the Pentagon chief is looking at the optics of it. The former head of HHS, Tom Ridge, they just don't like to see the visual, but we hear your explanation. We understand what you're saying. Yeah. I want to move on to this. The mother of the first teenager murdered in Seattle's protest zone. It's called the CHOP zone. She is now suing Seattle for wrongful death of her teenage son. Look at what happened in Oakland, California. Police now investigating vandalism at the mayor of Oakland, Libby Schaaf's home. They spray painted her garage, spray painted the front of her house, saying, "Wake up, Libby, defund the police." Your reaction to all of that?
I mean, I hope ordinary Americans see just how far out and how violent and how terroristic these folks are willing to be. This is not some ordinary political dispute. These are radical, Marxist-style, tyrannically minded, violent criminals who want to bring down America, not just establish a 6-block zone in Seattle. They hate America and they're being violent. That's why they're targeting law enforcement. That's why they're targeting historical items, objects, statues. That's why they're targeting government buildings. Until we see widespread cooperation among law enforcement to bring this violence down, we're going to see it continue.
Chicago police are disclosing footage. The Chicago police are showing rioters embedded inside peaceful protests.
Yes.
They're armed with projectiles to throw at cops. 1,000 rioters in Portland, they tried to barricade officers in the federal courthouse and set it on fire. They're using radio frequency jammers and then burn it down. And then pellet air rifles to injure officers, throwing concrete bricks, wooden boards filled with nails. We're detecting voter fatigue with all of this. People want to feel safe. They don't want this. They don't want this at all. Are the Democrats belly flopping here? Are they missing something, the trend that we're seeing in the culture? Because, by the way, take that on. I'm going to go to a soundbite next, but take that on.
Yeah, I think that Americans understand overwhelmingly, regardless of party, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Vegetarian, whatever, it doesn't matter, that the first responsibility of government is public safety. You can't do anything else in your society if you can't leave your home. You talk about people threatening a mayor at their home. That's happening in Richmond. It's happening all over the country. These are unacceptable forms of intimidation and violence. And unless the broad spectrum of America across party lines stands up and says, no, this is not an acceptable way to conduct public debate, as the president has said, then it won't go away. We need a coalition of the willing Americans to step forward like the president has done. Now, this should be bipartisan. It should be nonpartisan.
But critics are saying the Democrats largely have remained silent about this, except this one Democrat. Watch a local Chicago alderman, Raymond Lopez, talk about what's really going on with the rioters and the violence in Chicago. Listen to this.
We're all for peaceful protest, but when you have people dropping off frozen water bottles and sharpened PVC pipes during a demonstration under the cover of being a peaceful protest.
Well, I support you. There you go.
Yeah.
And then, but then you have Oregon Democrat Earl Blumenauer talking from the House floor saying Portland, quote, Portland, Oregon is not out of control. Why are Democrats downplaying this?
They're kissing up to a radical and very violent political base. Maybe it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease on the left. And again, Americans need to pay attention to this. Not every Democrat's kissing up to this, but I mean, the Speaker of the House is doing it. You mentioned Oregon, one of their senators. This is too widespread for us to take casually. This is really a bad pattern. And you point out the Chicago morphing of that, what looked like a peaceful protest, into a violent attack that injured 49 police officers. Superintendent Brown, the head of the police there in Chicago, gave a brilliant press conference. And I would urge your viewers to pull it up on YouTube. It's only 14 minutes before you get to the Q&A. And he shows you very clearly how this, what looks like a peaceful protest, was designed and changed into a violent assault, a massive violent assault. And unfortunately, the opportunity for peaceful protest is being smeared by these criminals and terrorists who are muddying the water with respect to all of our respect for First Amendment rights.
All right, Ken Cuccinelli, thanks for joining us. Come back soon.
Good to be with you. My pleasure.